Well, welcome everyone to Your Messy Brilliance podcast. I'm Kelly McNeilis and the founder of Women for One. And I'm so honored to speak with yet another incredibly wise woman around the heart and heart consciousness today. I think you'll get a lot out of this conversation that we're having and the work that this beautiful woman is doing in the world to support all women and all people in general. So I'd like to welcome Hema Vyas, and I want to tell you just a little bit about her before we dive into our great conversation. Hema is a health, energy medicine, and the science of Ayurveda, which if any of you know me, know that I really believe that Ayurveda has helped me so much in my life. So I'm very excited to speak with her. She's been doing this a long time. For 27 years, she's been practicing as a psychologist, a holistic mentor and speaker, and her work is about connecting ancient wisdom to solve the problem of modern times, especially by understanding the significance of the heart, which I think is so great after we just spoke with Heather Ashamara last month on the same topic, but this is just a different twist on it. And as you all know, I talk about that footprint, that thumbprint that we all put on our teaching and our wisdom. So I think we can learn a lot from Hema. Hema leads international retreats, which are fully immersive workshops and events that align and restore the heart, mind, and body. Her signature Heart Renaissance Path to Prosperity experience in Kerala, the home of Ayurveda, celebrated its 10th anniversary in this January of 2020. She's also spoken around the world. In 2019, she was the keynote speaker at the Conscious Living and Working Conference in Dublin, and she's also led a Heart Wisdom workshop series at London Soho House and given other numerous talks, and really is just a teacher to everyone that comes to the understanding that we do need to integrate the heart, the mind, and the body. I know I do at over 50. I'm yearning for that. So welcome, Hema. I'm really happy to have you here.
Hi, Kelly. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So what I'd love to start with, and what we always start with our featured speakers, is for you to tell us a little about your story and background. Because I know you're a psychologist who's passionate about restoring the heart, mind, and body through Ayurveda and other holistic healing methods. What prompted this journey for you? Like, how did you get here to serving so many people?
So my journey started when I was very young. I come from a whole kind of line of Vedas. My mum's a Vedic doctor who passed away last year, sadly, but all her family are Vedic doctors. So I grew up with knowledge about, Ayurveda, about the heart, mind, body, spirit connection, and I took it for granted. So when I went to college and university in London, I was quite taken aback by the fact that, a lot of lecturers resisted what I thought was known to everybody, and they were like, no, you're not getting the questions right. I was like, but that's the truth. And so it started me on a journey to really forge my own path, to sort of decide. I did follow the academic route for a little bit, and then I fell off that and decided I would do my own kind of spiritual mentoring, if you like. I started working with the heart energy in my own private practice and started reading about it, learning about it, understanding it, both with Ayurveda and with, sort of Sufism and modern texts and spiritual books, that are available to everybody. But I also would say that a lot of my wisdom has come from my own meditation practice, really delving deep into trying to understand my journey and my path. So that was the beginning.
That's wonderful. The first thing I think of when you say all of that, especially about meditation, I've been meditating on and off my whole life. And I find that I turn to meditation when I'm in crisis more than having as much of a regular practice as I'd like. My meditation is not always, it's a walking meditation in the woods a lot. It's not always sitting in front of a puja or an altar as much as I used to do that. I guess my question to you is like, how would a woman start that meditative practice? Just begin it without putting so much pressure on herself where, and what would the benefits be? So it's a two-part question.
Mhm. So I think to begin, what I teach with my Heart Alchemy meditation course is I really talk about the fact that we need motivation. We need to tap into our desires and to recognize that we have them, because we're so busy running from one thing to another. And the place that meditation, has in my life is that it's not about using it as a crutch. And I tell people it's important, as you said, Kelly, that we can all turn to something when we're in desperate need. But I would say it's about recognizing the creative force of meditation. It's about recognizing it can help propel us on our path, whatever it is, whether it's personal, professional, social. So when you tap into your desires, and when you know and acknowledge that you have things that you want to work towards, and I kind of help people recognize, well, one way to get there without putting too much effort into the external world is to go into your internal world, and through meditation really connect to the heart space, because that's where magic happens.
That's wonderful. And you talk a lot about the power of the heart, which is
Hmm.
so much bigger than what most heart-led people might imagine. And in
Hmm.
fact, you've noted that the heart is the portal to higher consciousness, which I so believe in that. And I'm so bought into that. But for you, what is that power of the heart, and why is it so important to be connected to it?
So, Kelly, my belief is that, we live in a 3D reality here on Earth. And so everything happens in time and space. And therefore, everything has to happen sequentially, and everything has to happen in a linear fashion. Now, if we want to step out of that mindset and we want to, be creative, if we want to step outside of the box and we want to, make magic, if you like, then we need to go beyond the linear time and space. And the way to do that is when we meditate deeply rather than occasionally, when we could go into a deep, deep meditation and we clear a lot of subconscious patterns through meditating, through allowing things to sort of surface and clear them.
Hmm.
Then what happens is when there's the two sides of the brain, the left and right hemisphere, connect in the middle, it opens up the heart in a much, much deeper way. And when that heart portal is open, we step out of linear thinking, we step out of linear ways of being, we step out of time, and we go into what I call the kind of dimensions where all possibilities exist almost simultaneously. And therefore, you can almost have your pick of what you want to bring and manifest into your life, as opposed to what you manifest through your logical thinking mind that says, I have to do X, Y, and Z to get to A, B, and C.
So it's yes, it's not a logical mind, but I want to go back because I want to learn about this. I mean, I definitely am fascinated by the brain.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of things in the last month that have occurred that have focused me, and I noticed those small things in my life and those large things on how the brain is affected. My daughter has anxiety, and her brain right now, she's decided to go off medication. And so her brain is kind of like scrambling a little bit now because of that. And
Mm-hmm.
then my best friend's husband had a stroke. So I've been, watching what's happened to him with his stroke with the brain, right? So it's fascinating where you balance that left and right brain, right? You've got the left and right brain when you're meditating. What
Mm-hmm.
is it that meditation does to balance that, to be able to connect it to that heart portal? What do you visualize that as?
So the way that I see it is that, there is consciousness that is in our body. There is consciousness that is very rooted in our biology and our conditioning and our experiences and history. And when we go into a deep state of meditation, we're tapping into the right side of the brain, which is more imaginative, creative.
Mhm.
And so what's happening is we step out of what we think we know and we step into what is possible. Consciousness, I believe, doesn't exist within the physical body. It exists everywhere. And I had a very, very interesting experience, which I'll quickly tell you about if that's okay, Kelly.
Yes, that'd be wonderful.
When I was 14 years old, I had a car accident. So I was crossing the road, not looking where I was going, and a car was speeding up and hit me quite violently. And I became unconscious. And what was amazing was I've always had these beliefs, so it didn't really shock me, but I kind of stepped out of my physical body and my consciousness, my friends had gone in the other direction. So my consciousness followed them. And as I followed them, I was kind of getting their attention to say, look, something awful's happened. Come and find me. And they couldn't hear me, obviously, because my physical body was not there. But I heard everything they said. I could hear their conversation, and I was trying to cut in and trying to get their attention, not realizing that I was not physically there. And then I went straight back into my body. And when I told them several days later, when I recovered a little bit, um, they were shocked and they couldn't believe that I actually said word for word everything they were saying.
Mm.
And so that was, like, that just affirmed to me what I'd always known, is that, what we hold on to in the left side of the brain is very limited to, like, the thoughts that we have based on our past and our conditioning. When we step out of that space, then I believe that we can impact our physical body as well as our environment as a result of what is possible, as opposed to what we think is possible.
Oh my gosh, I have so many questions that came into my head. Speaking of the nonlinear brain and having 7 different questions hit me at one point. One to start with is, when I was 17, my father died, and he died unexpectedly, and I was flying in a plane,
Mhm.
and he kind of went through my body, and I felt him. And it was the first experience I had had of any kind of consciousness or understanding of connection, heart connection with
Mhm.
someone else.
Mhm.
And I turned to my mom and I said, I think dad just died. And she thought I was crazy, right? Because that wasn't supposed to happen. And he had passed at that time. So he
Wow.
literally came through me.
Mhm.
So that's one question. Like, what is that? Is that a heart connection with that consciousness you see?
I would say, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a heart connection, but it's consciousness, because I believe the heart opens up to cosmic consciousness. Um, but yeah, I would say that, when his consciousness spirit left his body, of course, we find those that we love who are not there present with us. And that's why I say to people who've lost somebody and they haven't made it to their bedside or haven't made it to get to see them, it doesn't matter.
Mm-mm.
We still can express what we want to, and they can still hear us.
I completely agree. And then my next big question is around intuition, because, I speak about intuition in my book. We talk a lot about it as a tool that I really encourage all women to access, that in their feminine wisdom, is that intuitive nature that we all have, but as women can tap into that with our heart. How does the theme of intuition connect with what you're discussing around consciousness and heart consciousness?
Well, so from my perspective, intuition is simply a knowingness of something. So for example, when we have an intuitive feeling about something, it's because we have more facts available to us than what we consciously think. And that's where the heart resides. The heart energy is what goes out and connects us to everything and everyone. And therefore, we have access to something we think we don't consciously know. And that's what intuition is for me. And when the more we are connected to our hearts, the more we are open in our hearts, the more intuitive we are.
Absolutely, right? So your practice and what you teach helps us really dive into that space of the heart. And with the meditation, it balances the brain to be able to access that no time, nonlinear space of the heart.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely.
So you also talk about, you have the signature workshop that you offer. It's known as Heart Renaissance Path to Prosperity. And
hmm
I'm very interested in that because you have, just You've hinted at the fact that if we get out of our own way and this is in my own words, if you get out of your own
Mhm.
way, you really can manifest whatever you'd like in the world.
Mm.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what this is and what it provides?
So the workshop is slightly limited because it's really about um, a, a dive, beginning into sort of figuring out how to get out of your own way. So there are lots of tools. We're all on different journeys. We're all at different levels of our journey and different things that hold us back. So my workshops usually work around helping people have tools, not just meditation. There are lots of other tools, and one of them is definitely Kundalini Yoga, which I think is so, so powerful to release stuff that is held on an energetic level, because our hearts, when they're born, when our hearts are formed, they inform every part of our body with who, you know aspects of ourselves, whether it's our ancestors, whether it's past lives, whatever your beliefs are. And so we carry all of that with us. And part of my kind of workshops and my retreats are about helping people to begin to clear them. So we work on different themes, and the themes are usually around health, wealth, love, passion, and purpose, the
Nice.
5 pillars.
Right.
Yeah. I also, like in India with my retreat, because we do a lot of Ayurveda, we have with Ayurveda, it's about the whole kind of experience. We are part of the environment is part of us, we are part of our ancestral makeup, we are part of everyone around us, everything that's influenced us. And so we do a real big detox. We sort of work through on a physical level. We have lots of massages and lots of treatments, Ayurvedic treatments, that help us release stored emotions in our body, stored energy in our body, stored thoughts and beliefs. And then I also help them with meditation, with Kundalini Yoga. I teach, so we talk about specific themes. People come together. I never know exactly what I'm going to talk about, Kelly. You understand, it's being
Yes.
organic. But people usually come together with a theme, and because of my intuition, I'm able to tap into exactly what they need. And it's amazing how it always is, so apt for the whole group. And
That's fabulous. And I love that you do that. The only thing I've experienced similar to that is I went to the Chopra Center years ago with
uh-huh,
Deepak Chopra and did the Ayurvedic Perfect Health course. And
uh-huh,
what I loved about it was that it addressed my physical, my mental a little bit, my emotional, but to have that more customized in the way that you're doing it, because what I felt like, I was taught a lot of things that I already knew, and I had to sit through these classes, and I'd be like, yes, I know this, but to have it, for you to be a teacher tapping into your wisdom, where you're
mhm.
addressing that physical piece as well, that detoxing, where the mind gets out of the way and we can clear our bodies through practicing the practice of Ayurveda. It just feels like a warm blanket all over me. Like I would love to do something like that. So when you do these workshops, how many people do you allow in them?
It depends where it is. So, like at Soho House, where I did just one, short workshop. At one point we had about 40, 50 people. I mean, it was a little bit too much, but
Right.
it was amazing that the, energy in that space was absolutely amazing. But in a smaller space, we have, smaller groups. But in India, it's definitely a smaller group. Like I say, it's amazing how people gravitate towards each other and come as a group, and the people who are meant to be there are there. And it's a smaller group because it's a lot more intense.
It
I
is. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I actually did study with Deepak Chopra, and I used to run the Perfect um,
Of
Health
course.
classes there, and I can tell you that mine is like 10 times more intense.
Oh, it sounds fabulous. Like that was kind of, I had lived in India with the guru and had just touched on Ayurveda with her. But then when I came back, I
Mhm.
decided to just dive into this perfect health course, which was beautiful. It was so great for my body, but my
Mhm.
mind and my heart yearned for more deeper connection and around that. So I would love to come do one of your workshops. It sounds incredible.
Absolutely. Well, I would love you to come along and experience it firsthand.
Right. So for you, so okay, moving into prosperity, because you talk about these 5 different areas that you address, how is it related to something you call omnipreneurship, which I love that name, omnipreneurship.
Mm-hmm. So basically, for me, it's about not just having a career, it's about having balance. It's not just about having family, it's not just about having friends, it's about having all of it. And when everything is beautifully in balance and aligned, it opens up the heart center in such a way that we become more compassionate, more altruistic. And we need that. The world needs to recognize that we are not meant to be individuals. We are here to experience individuality, but within a group and within like a collaborative space.
Hmm.
And we've lost that a little bit with the competitiveness that's been kind of dominant in the last century. And I think women tend to sort of shy away from it. I think it's healthy to be in competition with yourself and keep on bettering yourself. But omnipreneurship is really about how we can go beyond just ourselves and really, really find that prosperity within us and then be of service to the world that we live in so many ways, not just being of service in terms of our dharma, in terms of our careers and what we give professionally, but in terms of, how we live with nature, how we interact with people, with situations, experiences. So it's really about sort of, the slightly more philanthropic kind of angle, but finding, that balance within yourself and knowing that you have everything you need and giving from a space of fullness.
Yes, instead of like that poverty consciousness, or what I love that you're saying, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but
Mm.
I had a teacher for many years where I studied energy medicine. This probably in the last 15 years. I love studying different things like you, and and
Yeah.
she was my teacher for years, and she said to us, just to boil it down, I'm teaching you to be the best kidney cell you can be. So what she was saying is, we have trillions of cells in our body, right? And so you're just this little kidney cell. But if you be the best kidney cell you could be for the universe, right? Where you're serving, where you're giving from that place of wholeness, where you're full, so that you're not feeling, like you're sucking off of others, right? That is where what her goal is in teaching the students she had. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And because then when you are the best version of yourself, you will organically know how to be the best for others around you.
Hmm. I wish all of us could learn that. I wish, we taught that in schools when we were younger. This emotional intelligence for, I have 6 children. I have 3 of my own and 3 stepchildren. And I
Yeah.
look at them, and, the emotional intelligence is taught by families and familial values, not as much in the schools, which I think is so much more valuable than teaching them skills, sometimes.
Well, exactly. Well, I think, the two go hand in hand. And I think we have to learn to teach children to embrace their individuality. And I think in the early ages of school, that's slightly taken away. Everybody
Right.
has to be the same. And if you're not good at, X, Y, and Z lessons, then you're not good enough. Whereas, each child comes into their own in their own time, because they might not have found who they really are until a later age.
Right.
I
And that's okay.
think it is.
I
It's
keep telling, well, my youngest is 19 and my oldest is almost 26. And I keep telling them, I still don't know what I want to do. I'm like a student of life, right?
as am I. I'm still always learning and growing, and I'm fascinated. There's still more to learn.
That's right. Absolutely. So speaking of that, so you're such a powerful example of how we as women can integrate that spiritual wisdom and our intuition, and also like the cutting edge theories in science and technology.
Mhm.
And you're connecting a lot of different methods. And I know with my work, I'm really interested in merging what's considered feminine, right? More
Mhm.
emotional, heart driven, community driven, and masculine, which is the logical left brain, focus and directive. In your experience for you, how do you do that? Because like you said about the children we just talked about, right? They're not mutually exclusive. It is really important to integrate the masculine and feminine. How do you, like in your experience, do that? Merge that masculine and that feminine side? Because I mean, personally, I believe that the new feminine for us in this world is the merging. We see that a lot now where we're connecting the two, that masculine piece and the feminine piece. And as you spoke about everything around, children, when you said, they're not mutually exclusive. Like learning is important and emotional intelligence, is important. I'm curious, in your life, how do you integrate that masculine and feminine piece in your work?
Okay, so I would say, it comes back to two things. One is the hard energy, and the other is the yoga. For me, I don't, I think it's important for men to be men and women to be women. But I think within all of us, there is a masculine and feminine. And
Yes.
I think,
Mhm.
for me, the heart space, oddly enough, I know what you said, and I love what you say in terms of what you're doing with your community. And there is that feminine aspect of the heart. But for me, the heart has never been feminine. For me, there is I would say that what's feminine is the gut brain, what's masculine is the cerebral brain, and for me the heart is the center where the masculine and feminine meet. And
Wow, that is amazing. Can you say that again? That is beautiful. No, I'm serious. Sorry to interrupt, but that's big for me.
thank you. And so what I believe very strongly is that the masculine is a cerebral brain, the
Right?
feminine is the gut brain. So we have a brain in our gut, we have a brain in our head, and we have a brain in our heart. And the heart for me is where the masculine and feminine meet.
Hmm. That is so beautiful. And that just all comes together and makes sense. When you meet someone in life and you're ready to hear something, that's what I just felt right now.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That
Because
Oprah
I've
moment.
learned about all the chakras, I've learned about the different layers, I've studied on, but to really get what you just said is huge for me. It really is. When you come into the heart, it is,
Mhm,
and I never thought of the heart as feminine as much, but just that explanation,
mhm,
it's almost like the residing space for consciousness. But you speak about consciousness being everywhere, not just inside the body, or it's everywhere, as I know. But when you
mhm.
talk about that heart space, I always envision the heart space as, I felt heartache, like physically felt when my heart hurt in a
Uh-huh.
physical space.
Yes.
So I've always wondered what that was about for me. And I know other people have felt that too when we say we have a heartache.
Mhm. I would say heartache is basically where there is a constriction, where we don't allow life to sort of flow. When something happens, when something hurts us, when there's a trauma, when there's something shocks us, jolts us, all of those things, we hold it in our hearts, and what happens is our heart contracts because it's a physical thing. It is literally a physical thing.
Hmm.
The heartache is a literal physical thing, and I believe it's because some part of us had a different outcome in mind, and things don't always go the way we want. But when we really embrace it and allow our hearts to continue to stay open and surrender to the grief that we may experience, the heart can heal itself.
I love that. But I guess what I'm saying is I got really excited when I felt a heartache. And I know that sounds very odd
Mhm.
because I think I had shut down my heart for so long. And I think a lot of us in the world do shut down our hearts to what's going on for ourselves and for the world, in relationship. So when I first felt that heartache, I was like, oh, wow, like it felt exciting and I felt
Mhm.
alive because I could feel my heart and I could dive into that space. But I love that you said the heart can heal itself.
Mhm.
But do you agree that there are a lot of us that have shut down that space center, that center of heart?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think we've disconnected from it, and that's why I do the Heart Renaissance workshops, because it is really, really the reemergence of the heart and the importance of the heart. and understanding it. Obviously, it's not just a pump, physical pump, and we know that there's a lot of talk around the heart and the energy and heart math in people. But I loved what you said, Kelly, because the fact that you felt that ache meant that whatever you were feeling emotionally translated into your heart. and
Yes.
and that's what I believe we hold through many lifetimes. I believe we hold, like, not just our stuff, but our parents' stuff, and our grandparents' stuff. We hold at least 2-3 generations in our heart. And so if you felt that, chances are you would have also carried what your mother would have felt at some point, what your father would have felt. So we've got a lot of stuff I feel we need to clear.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm always feeling like I need to clear. But it's beautiful to be able to feel alive enough to do that. Because
Uh-huh.
we're numbing ourselves in so many ways with medications and distractions. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just looking at all that from this kind of distant perspective, like trying to separate a little, like, there are so many other ways, like working with you, going to your workshops, being mentored by someone that has really created tools and avenues and understandings for us to really dive into our heart, open it for ourselves and the world. So I'm just really honored to talk to you. Obviously, I want to be one of your mentees. You can tell. Like, nothing comes of this interview other than that. I mean, it's beautiful for me. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kelly. It would be an honor to have you join anything that I'm doing.
Right, right. So I know you're offering the Women for One community a very special gift, a 50% off their first mentoring session with you. Can you give us a few more details about what clients can expect from the work that they do? I mean, other than you doing this with me right now?
Well, often people sort of have spaces where they're thriving and successful, and then they have spaces where they're struggling. And the reason why people numb themselves and distract and find avenues, shortcuts, whatever, is because they don't know what to do. And often they think there is nothing they can do. Like, if you're experiencing like a deep heartache or deep grief, and you think, well, there's nothing I can do except let time take its course. And I don't believe that at all. And I feel mentoring with me is really about, working together, figuring out where there may be spaces and places where they're stuck or not thriving as much as they would like to, and how they can begin to step outside of their own limiting thoughts and beliefs that they may not even recognize. That's the beauty of the work that I feel I do, is often people come to me with a problem, and then when I highlight what I really think is a problem, they're like, oh my God, I wouldn't have even dared name that.
Right, right.
Yeah, so I think that's a quite a consistent thing, because they're like, oh, I just want to come because I've got this going on or whatever, and because I listen with my heart and I tap into what's really in their hearts, where the deep desires and the disappointments are held. I feel like we get to the heart of something deeper, which allows them to get there quicker.
And do you do these virtually as well?
I do, yes.
Wonderful. It sounds amazing. I mean, I do clarity calls with people, and it's fascinating how being a mirror and tapping into your own intuition and the
Mhm.
tools that you've used in your life and with other people you've taught supports others. That's what I've seen in when I've been the
Yes.
client, and also when I've worked with people.
Mhm.
We really get a different perspective when we're not, it's kind of like putting it in front of you and looking at it from a different perspective, other than being in it and being blind to like what's really truly going on. So I just love your wisdom. I love your knowledge. I'm so honored to know you and what you're doing. So how can people contact you?
So I have a website. So at the moment it is Hema Vyas, HEMAVYAS.co.uk. But I think I'm literally in the process of transitioning this weekend to .com. So
Oh, well, we'll have it up on our site permanently.
uh-huh.
It'll be, so you can check out, the description here that says how you can contact Hema.
Uh-huh.
And if you want to work with her, it has all the info. I looked at your site. It has all the info on your site about it. So
Yes.
it might be transitioning over, which is wonderful.
Yeah, so just if it's not at .co.uk, it'll be at .com, but hopefully by the weekend it'll be at .com.
Wonderful. Do you, in closing, I usually ask our guests, like, is there any piece of advice or idea that you'd like to share with our community in moving forward in this world?
So I guess the only thing I would say is, absolutely commit to doing whatever it takes, whether it's working with me, working with you, working with, reading, whatever you want to do, but commit to being the best version of yourself because the world needs it right now.
Mm. Yes, we do. And we need you. And I'm so honored to know you. And please check out. Thank you so much, Hema, for being here. It's been so wonderful. I could talk to you for probably 6 hours. I probably need to schedule my first session after this. But it's been great to come into my heart and to really connect with you today. And I hope that all of you have enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Please check out Hema. All the info is on our site. And we can, I hope that you can also join her in one of her retreats and one of her workshops that she does. So check out everything on her site. And thank you again, Hema, for being here.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for having me. It was a real honor to chat to you today. Thank you.
All right, everyone, have a wonderful and beautiful day. I'll see you soon. Big love.